Okay, one quick note here. Before you start gluing up your panels, your left and right panel, I showed you how these Spar doublers fit. I'm going to take it back out. You want to just trial fit these guys. Don't glue these in until later on after we join them to the center section. Okay, so these spars that go in there, Spar doublers, don't glue those in yet. But you can go ahead and glue the rest of your wing panels all up. Okay, I'll zoom back out just a little. What we're going to talk about now is our center section. You need to make a decision with this center section. The decision being, do I want this wing to be flat or do I want this wing to have dihedral? If you intend to put on ailerons, you can do ailerons on either a flat wing or a dihedral wing. However, if you do a flat wing and you decide you don't want to do ailerons, that is a very bad idea. You will most likely fail. A flat wing needs to have ailerons. If you're going to turn rudder and elevator only, you don't intend to run ailerons, you need to put dihedral in. If you don't put dihedral in, then it's just not going to work. So, the wing that I intend to build, I'm going to build one with dihedral. And why? Well, I've got tons of sport planes around. I got tons of little hot rods around. I don't have any trainer planes around. And I've got a couple of little girls and even my adult son that want to learn to fly. So, hey, let's build something that will be a good step for them. My son, after he flies his Vapor and gets comfortable with that, he'll be able to step right into this aircraft. I'm going to go ahead and add ailerons onto mine, though. Even though it's going to have dihedral, I'm going to have 4-channel operation on mine, simply because we can get into ailerons as he's ready for it. In the meantime, we'll just do rudder turns. Anyway, the center spar section, you have 2 of them. They look like this. This top one has an F pressed into it or burned into it or whatever. The bottom one has a D. F is what you would use if you're going to put together a flat wing. D is what you're going to put together with dihedral. And that's what I'm going to do. So I can just throw the F away. Yeah. Anyway, you'll remember this piece here that we worked up. That was the very first thing that we built. And it's the trailing edge section of our center. Well, in the sheet, the plywood sheet, where I pulled out this piece here to glue to the balsa piece, there was also this little sliver of a piece here. Well, that is this guy, and it goes in here in the dovetail. Now I would zoom in on that, but I think it's fairly self-explanatory. That's going to press into place in its little tab slot fix, and then we'll just throw some glue over it, and it'll be ready to go. Now, I've got other parts here we're going to discuss. Here is our center rib, our front center rib. There are a couple of pieces here, and I don't know the part numbers off the top of my head. These guys are D1s, and this is a CR for center rib. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to glue these together. You'll notice possibly that there is a little slot in the bottom of this one. That little slot is where our, I think he refers to it as a finger, leading edge pin finger. Well, that's this little plywood piece here, and it's going to snap in just like so, and that's going to give our leading edge a hold down into our fuselage. However, we're not going to glue that part in until last, after the model's already covered. So we're just going to set that guy aside. And we're also going to look for this part. This is our leading edge centerpiece. And you'll notice it by its shape. Okay, well, the way we're going to start here is we're going to take and put our center section right up in the middle. And then we're going to take these other pieces, these doublers, D1, and we're going to slide one in here. I hope you can see that. And we're going to come over here and do one on the other side. And that gives us the center rib with the leading edge attached. if you can see that. And at this point, once you're satisfied with it, you can go ahead and glue that guy up. Okay? The next piece we're going to look at, we're taking our center spar, D for dihedral in my case, and we're going to pull up a couple of these guys. These are our centermost ribs, our CT1. And for the short term, we can just slide one in to each of these little holes, just like that. We've got, as well, this center sheeting. And I don't remember what that part number is. Top center sheet is what it's referred to as. We can drop that in to the tabs and the slots. And look at there. That is in place. Just doing a dry fit right now. Now we've got two more rib pieces. It's these guys here. Now these rib pieces are part numbers N4. And you may be able to see here that they are male and female slots. And I'm just going to press those together. Make sure I get it in there. As such. And I'll do one for the other side. And get them all straightened out. Like that. Okay. Now we've got these little guys here. And these are interesting little pieces. These are ply. And I'll try to get them a little closer. Find a piece of white paper. I've got nothing. Here we go. Just a little piece of plywood. Well, those go in to these sides. These are rib doublers. And if we look in here real close, we can see a little bit of a slot. That's a double wide slot where our tail end rib is going through. Well, that's where this goes in. Just push it in and kind of pivot it up. And it goes just like that. We'll do one of those on each side. This airplane builds very quickly. Okay. Those are in place. Now we can take our trailing edge section and we can push that into place here where our ribs go to the insides of the slots and our little doublers go to the outside of the slot as such. Just like that. And then finally, we could take this front rib piece, center rib with its leading edge, and we can work that in place like this. And I'll push that all together. I haven't glued that yet on mine, so naturally it's going to be a little bit of a pain. There. Okay, that's kind of what we've got going here. And once you have that all dry fit together, that whole center section, now you can go ahead and glue that all up with thin CA. And there is one other piece. There is a little spar. A short spar, spar doubler, I guess is what you'd call it. And it's going to go on the bottom here, kind of like that. But we don't glue that piece in yet. That's going to be one of the last pieces we glue in. Okay, so I'm going to glue this all up, and we'll get back with you, and we'll start joining this thing all together. Okay, now it's time to glue our wing panel. We're going to glue, in this case, we're going to glue the left wing panel into our center section. If you nose around, you're going to find a part that looks like that. This is basically a dihedral brace or a gauge or whatever. This is going to help us to set the angle of dihedral when we build this thing, when we assemble the two wing halves. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to track back to our wing and take this little guy here and just stick it right in there, put it in there, just like that. Okay, and that's going to give us a little leg to stand on as we set this dihedral. If we take our center section that we've already glued up and we line up our perf, or our serrated edges, just like that, we can press them together, and we're going to set the whole thing down. Now we've got to line up our serrated edges on the back and on the front as such, and I've got those set, pushed in nicely. Now they recommend putting a weight on the center section to keep it flat. Dave recommends like a transmitter battery pack. I'm not going to do that. I've got this ½ pound of solder. I'm going to set that right there. That keeps that completely flat to the ground. And at this point, I'm ready to wick glue at the leading edge, the trailing edge, and at the spar section, and let that dry. I'll do that, and then I'll go back and I'll do the other side. When I join you again, you'll have both wing halves will be joined together, and then we'll finish up that wing. Okay, as you can see, we have one wing now. Everything is all set up, all ready, all glued up. At this point, we can put our long spar doublers in, and that's these guys right here. I popped them out. Those ones I told you don't glue. I've got the angle there so that when it goes into the top of the wing, the top spar is all flat all the way across. Hopefully I can get it to where you can see that. There we go. I think I got it. See the angles there? Anyway, put all four, 2 on each side, put all those back in place, and you can glue those in, and then we can take our short brace and put it in here. Center that up, and that's our center section spar brace. And once you've got that all like you like it, glue those together, and if you're that almost does it for the wing. We have ailerons to address. If you are building ailerons, after you've got that all glued in, you can take your ailerons as such here. The skinny edge goes out at the wingtip, and then we angle back. You'll see a couple little tabs right in here, and that's where our control horns are going to go on. Anyway, this is how they should appear when you have these guys attached. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to ever so lightly with your sanding block, you want to clean up and true up the trailing edge of that wing. Make sure it's all nice and straight. And you want to do the same thing with this, with your aileron. And we're going to, there's instructions in the manual. I think it's fairly self-explanatory, but you want to be able to take your sanding block and angle, put a bevel onto your aileron, and I would recommend about 30-35 degrees, at our hinge point where we're going to be hinging. You can set it up. See if I can adjust my camera and show you. What I like to do is have it overhang as such, and then I'll take my sanding bar and I'll go back and forth and put a slight bevel in there. When we get all done, we're going to hinge these to our wing by just simply taping them on with packaging tape. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. In the meantime, this is going to pretty much conclude the wing. We still have a few little things to do, glue in our magnet and so forth. But for right now, we're going to be finished with our wing.